Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Wine with Jimmy channel here on the world of YouTube. I'm your host, Jimmy Smith, and welcome to the educational channel here on the world of wine. We help you drink more better, I suppose you would say, but we're here to offer the educational world of wine at your fingertips. We do focus here on a lot of the professional wine qualifications to help you get through your wine examinations. So here we have a series on the wines of the world for the WSET Diploma. This is looking at the rather exciting area of Jura, and this is part 2. So part 2 of 6, looking at the growing environment and grape growing. This part, along with the previous part, is available as free content here on the world of YouTube, but parts 3 to 6 are only available on my e-learning portal at www.winewithjimmy. Please go across there, have a look at it, and subscribe for all of that extra exciting content. So if you do have any comments or any concerns or any questions that you want to pose to us here at Wine with Jimmy, you can do so in the comments section below this video on YouTube, or get in touch with the social media that you see at the bottom of every slide. Also, make sure that you click subscribe and you click like, because every little helps, of course, and you can join the army of people that are now on this YouTube channel. Okay, let's start to look at the growing environment and grape growing. So we're going to be talking about climate, weather, and we're going to talk about geology and then vine training systems here, which are applicable to the WSET Level 4 syllabus, with a few extra bits and bobs added in for good measure from yours truly. There is quite a classic picture of the wonderful region of Franche-Comté, which Jura as a department sits within. These are the very famous Montbéliard cattle that we have famously producing the milk to be produced into Comté cheese, amongst many other things. And there's lots of wonderful facts to learn about this cattle, but I will not go into them on this presentation. It's something you should really investigate in your own time. And hopefully you have tried some wonderful Comté cheese, which is France's most exported cheese. Okay, so the climate here is what we would consider as a moderate continental climate, with some alpine influences because of the proximity to the Alps. We have climate change bringing significant extra warmth in Jura, and therefore it's experiencing some rather good sunshine levels. So the sunshine levels between the years of 2002 to 2012, the averages would average out at around 1,850 hours per year. London gets about 1,650, so 1,650, and the United Kingdom's average would be around 1,500. So good sunlight, 1,850 hours per year. So that's one good aspect, of course, in terms of helping the ripeness of the grapes. Then also the rainfall here. So the rainfall is what will pose the problems. Rainfall in Jura will be around 1,100 millimeters per year, which is significantly high. Comparing that to somewhere like London, which is about 700 millimeters per year, it is wetter. Why? Well, the huge geographical feature which sits on the western side of France is, the eastern side of France, is the Alps. And of course, the weather patterns come from the west mainly, and they hit this big mass of mountain range. And when they hit it, they rain. They rain on this side. So rainfall collects. It's called orographic rainfall, collecting on mountains and raining on this western side. So you get high levels of rainfall here, which will, of course, pose a problem. So the problems in the vineyard. In early summer, rain can pose a threat to things like flowering and therefore fruit set. And this, of course, will in turn reduce the potential yield from the vineyard. And that is a problem. That's one of the major issues why Jura is quite a premium product, because we do have diminishing yield numbers in this area. Also, excessive rain in the vineyards makes work within the vineyard quite difficult. So this is tending to the land due to things like water in the soil, on the soil, things like erosion. So quite difficult to maneuver. Long periods of wet weather during the season, exacerbated by quite a lot of clay and marl in the soils, means that additional work to control weeds and combat the fungal diseases will need to happen. And that, of course, adds cost. Outbursts of things like mildew are exceptionally common in this area. Further problems as well, spring frosts are a common issue here, and that's due really to the continentality of the area. So the continentality, meaning, of course, the kind of central landlocked location that we find it. And this can be an issue because there are varieties such as Pulsar and Trousseau, which are early budding. And of course, they will be affected, and Chardonnay as well, affected by frosts due to their early budding nature. There could even be issues of drought in summer months as well, around August, because it has a continental effect to it. So yields here have averaged well below the maximum yield figures that are allowed. And I'll go through that in a bit more detail, actually, on part 6 of this lineup. And in the decade of 2017, due to all of these hazards which we've just discussed, we have exceptionally low levels of grapes being produced. In 2017, 23 hectolitres per hectare, which is much lower than, say, the French average. So it's actually less than half the maximum allowed in most of the AOCs of Jura. So really, frost and rainfall issues, and even some drought in some aspects, all make this a difficult landscape for the cultivation of the vine. So what can we do then to try and mitigate these problems and maximize the environment? Well, the vineyards are located for the most part on west-facing slopes or southwest-facing slopes, and in some instances even south. Now, this is in fact the opposite direction to vineyards in Burgundy. Burgundy facing mainly east or southeast. So we're facing towards the west. What does this mean? Well, of course, we have greater amounts of warmth and sunlight, certainly the more aggressive afternoon sunlight, due to the direction, the aspect of the slope. So that enables good ripeness and hopefully some drier conditions. Vineyards will sit at around 250 to 400 meters. So not exceptionally high in altitude, because it doesn't need to, because they're generally cooler conditions, but still, you know, with good slope and terracing aspect to it. Now, a little bit around the name. So the Jura mountain range was actually named after a Celtic word, which means forest. It's a forested mountain area. The Jurassic area is then named after Jura. So Celtic word producing Jura, and then Jurassic derived from that. And the Jurassic era, 205 to 142 million years ago. And this is important because the formation of the soils here are very much linked to that. So we have soils which are more clay and marl based in comparison to limestone. So let's talk about that. There you are. There's some marly soils. Now in Burgundy, remember Burgundy is more into central France, across the Saône River on the Bresse plain towards the Massif Central and the Côte d'Or. In that area, you have a domination of limestones and chalks, a chalk type of limestone. But this area, on your west-facing alpine pre-alp zone, we have more marly and clay soils, generally more water retention, generally darker soils. And really, that's quite important because wines that are produced on these marly clay soils can tend to be more rounder and more powerful, certainly when it comes to Chardonnay, in comparison to limestone. Now, I am generalizing because there are many other factors at play as well, but the geology certainly is very important. In terms of the grape growing here, many vineyards are grassed between the rows to reduce erosion, and that's due to the slope and, of course, rainfall, and to also limit herbicide use. The grass means that between rows, the herbicides use can be limited to the ground immediately below the vines only. The picture here, you've got grass between the rows. This is of Etienne Thibault of Domaine Cavarodes, which produced some quite wonderful Trousseau and Savagnin. Here we're talking about grape growing. So the vines are mostly replacement cane pruned at quite some height above ground level to mitigate problems with ground frost. Vertical shoot position is used with this in combination to encourage the flow of air and to reduce the problems of fungal disease. Machine harvesting has become a bit more popular, but where the slopes are a bit more steep, it's still hand harvesting. But machines, of course, will help reduce cost and also the speed of the harvest. Here you've got some replacement cane systems here and vertical shoot in the vineyards used to be owned by Jacques Pouffenet, who's in this picture, in around the area of Montigny-les-Azurs. And there's some absolutely exquisite wines made here, of course, Savagnin and Trousseau, very specially, and a bit of Pulsar. No longer making wine, Jacques Pouffenet has hung up his boots, but still a mightily important person, often called the godfather of Jura. Okay, so that brings me to the end of part 2. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please join us for part 3 on the grape varieties of Jura, but this will only be available on my e-learning portal at www.winewithjimmy.com. You'll find the link at the bottom of the slide. Please do get in touch by the social media or by commenting on this video below where you see my face if you have any comments, questions or concerns, and please make sure you like and subscribe. Otherwise, if you do find yourself here in the United Kingdom, please come and see us in one of my establishments for a glass or a bottle. I've been Jimmy Smith. Thank you very much. Goodbye.